My name is Alpheus, and I let you know that there is a new show in town, and the show is called Track and Field Legends. This is the 29th of January, and our first guest is none other than the only Bahamian world champion in the 400 meters, none other than Avard Moncur. Avard, how are you feeling today? First of all, how is Atlanta? Because I heard I had a Zoom meeting last night, and I was told that it's very cold in Atlanta.
It's definitely not hot Atlanta right now. It's cold Atlanta. But the good thing about living in the South is that it doesn't get extremely cold. We haven't had any threats of snow, so it's been pretty mild. But in the Bahamas, anything lower than 60 degrees is freezing.
I hear what you're talking about. Now tell me this. As I said, you are the first Bahamian to win a 400 meters gold in the World Championships. So that was in 2001, but you didn't start there. Tell us a little bit about your start, how you got interested in track and field.
Well, my start was very a non-traditional start. It really was this desire. I went to Carlton Francis, and we had our first sports day. The school was brand new, and we didn't get to go directly to the Thomas A. Robinson Track Stadium, which is the national stadium. So we had it in the actual parking lot. And there's this kid I saw, and he was just winning every race. And I saw that he had so much admiration and praise, and it just looked like something that was very honorable. And there's this thing in the back of my mind. I was like, I feel like I can beat him. And that just kind of the next year, we were actually able to go to the Thomas A. Robinson Track and Field Stadium, and I just wanted to beat him. I didn't care, what I had to do, but I decided that I was going to beat him specifically, and it actually worked. I beat him. It was the 400 meters. I remember asking the team leader. I was just like, "This is a big circle. Do I have to run around the whole thing?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Just take your time and pace yourself." And I had no clue what she was talking about. But anyway, I ended up beating him. And Miss Diana Thompson, who was one of the teachers there, she just saw that there was a lot of potential that could come from that, and she decided to start a track club. And I was a part of that part. And I had no interest in being a part of organized sports. I just had one goal, which was to beat this one person. And as far as I was concerned, I was accomplished. And that's where it started. She did something amazing. She had
who was that? Who was that person? What's the name of that person?
His name
Not
was
significant. Go ahead.
His name was Wilford Davis. I remember it very clear. He was short, but he just was fast. And I just felt, the fastest person in the school. And I just felt like, yeah, I think I got this one. I could beat this one. But Ms. Thompson decided that she was going to start the Roadrunners Track and Field Club, and she literally did something. There's probably laws against what she did back in the day, but she would pack at least 10 kids in her, I guess, I don't know what year, Nissan Sunny. I don't even think they make Nissan Sunnies anymore. But she would pack all these kids in there, and she would take us to train us as much as she could, we all lived in different aspects of the community, but she would definitely try to make it available. But on days that she couldn't train us, she gave a newsletter, and she would tell us how we should basically prepare ourselves on our own. So the actual track was not really someplace that I lived a lot. A lot of the training that I did was basically around my community and so forth. And that's really how track and field started for me. Just a whim that I could have beat someone.
Well, fast forward, Avard, to 1995, the Cayman Islands. What happened there?
That was the Cayman Islands was when I won the Carifta Games for the first time. I had no clue that that was going to happen. I heard of Debbie Ferguson. Pauline Davis was such a household name. Also, the awards that they won, Austin Celia Awards, they were such uh, household names in our country. And for me, I felt like, well, I just want to go for the experience. I had no clue that I would have any success there. We always talked about the Jamaicans. They had a very significant program, and so I was concerned that maybe I wouldn't be able to rise to the occasion. But I went on the race, and I saw that I was able to win. And from then, I think that's where my confidence started to develop. And I understood that this was something that could definitely change my life and steer the course of the rest of my life.
Well, that was 95.
Mhm.
Let's jump to 1996. What was significant for you in 1996?
So beyond being inspired significantly by Michael Johnson breaking the world record in the 200 meters and the Golden Girls getting a silver medal um, at the Olympics in Atlanta, I actually got a chance to go to my first World Junior Championships in Sydney, Australia. That was such a long trip. I will never forget it. I just didn't think it took that long to get anywhere. It took 24 hours. But that's where I saw that, wow, you really have to begin preparing for this properly. There's no like going off a natural talent. I think Obi Moore, who was the world junior champion, I remember like laying on the floor exhausted, and then his leg stands on the side of me and he has these big quads and hamstring, and I'm this skinny guy, and I'm just like, I'm not there yet.
Boy,
So
that is something else.
yeah, but that was the inspiration for me because I saw that, wow, this is a serious thing, but this really can open significant doors for you. And from there on, I think I started to prepare properly, and started joining the track club. Like Miss Thompson took her stuff to the next level, but eventually started working with other coaches, and I started to improve significantly. But '96 was probably the year that I saw that I had to do extra. I had to do the work in order to get to where I wanted to get to.
So, a couple of things happened in 1997. That was Carifta in Barbados when you won the gold, another gold,
Yes.
2 years later. And that same year, we had the Pan Am Juniors in Havana. And you got a silver medal running 46:56. And who was your, what do you call it? Who was the person that beat you?
So actually, the funny thing about that is I ran against Shane. His name is Shane Nemi. He's from Canada, and
Yes.
I raced him on my way to the first World Championship. So I remembered him very well. So I understood clearly that I wasn't running against somebody that I could take for granted for the most part. So I definitely knew that I had to focus. I also had lean 8. Don't ask me how I got that, but I had lean 8, so I was running blindly the entire time. But the race, that it allowed me to focus on my strategy and not necessarily focus on what he was doing. He did win the race, but I understood that I was improving because I was now consistently running in the 46-second range, and he was running 45. But there's this thing in me when I was like, what it is that he's doing that I can do, because I believe that is very much possible for me. I just maybe lack discipline, focus, and maybe resources, but I genuinely felt like this is something that I could experience also. I can definitely run that fast. So I definitely started looking at my options. Of course, school started to show interest, and I was definitely trying to find out which school I wanted to go to, and just decide on the program. So that's where it kind of steered me into the direction of how can I take this to the next level, that experience.
Something significant happened in 1998. We're talking about the CAC Games in Maracaibo. and you were part of the 4x400-meter relay team. How was that?
Every team was just such a growing and learning experience, because it's like now I was in these countries that was like I knew didn't speak Spanish. I understood that culturally I needed to adapt too. The race was, I mean, it just took me to these different levels of what track and field had to offer. And I remember sitting down with Debbie Ferguson. I was just like, I really don't understand how this works. I say, what are these different things that we're going to? And then she basically explained to me the levels of importance of each particular race. I mean, they're all amazing competitions, but she wanted me to understand in the grand scheme of things, how people viewed various competition levels in terms of region. So that conversation with her allowed me to start making other goals in terms of going to a world championship or going to an Olympic championship. We did pretty well as a team.
You won a gold.
Yes.
You won a gold medal.
Yes.
That's pretty well.
Yes, we were really excited about that. And I just understood that, the Bahamas, even though we didn't have a whole truckload of athletes, we had very significant talent, and we could compete with the Jamaicans, any major country that was out there. We really had the ability, and if we kind of come together, that we definitely can have a force to reckon with. I remember Sidney Cartwright started that idea, I think it was him, of sending a 4x4 to the Olympics in '96. And so I think a lot of attention was basically geared towards not only creating individual athletes, but also creating very strong and significant teams. And also the girls winning the Olympics in '96, I think the men in the 4x4 also wanted to, show their thing. And the 4x4 was definitely our strong point.
So you were not on that team, '96.
And you're talking about
no, '96 you went to Sydney.
Yes, I did not go. I did not go in Sydney, but I watched it, and
yeah,
it was. They were trailblazers, because I saw these guys who were at the Olympic finals, and back then that was such a big deal. It's like we didn't get kicked out in the first round. We made it to the finals. We didn't win.
You know what? You remember what happened in Atlanta? I think the Nigerians were disqualified, and that moved us up to the finals in Atlanta. Yes, that's what happened. But fast forward to 1999, 3 years later, we're at the CAC Senior Championships in Barbados, and we win the gold medal. '99. And then that same year, we went to Winnipeg, and you were a part of the team in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're talking about you in college. Talk about that.
Yeah, I went to Auburn. I transferred to Auburn University in the fall of '98 and '99. So I finally got to be a part of a program where it included all the things that I needed to develop as an athlete: the weight room, physiotherapy, making sure I had food. All those things were definitely coming together in the best way possible that I needed for an athlete. So that was a year of significant improvement. It was the first year I ran under 46 seconds, and I ran the 45 range on a consistent basis. And at the Pan Am Games, I had such a long season, and I was still able to compete really, really well. But I understood that the Bahamas 4x4 team had gotten a confidence level that was like nothing. We were talking to the United States like we had a possible chance of beating them, and I was like, "Whoa!" I said, "We getting up there." And even though nothing significant happened, I think there was just this burning desire in the minds, because you had a Chris Brown who was just very emotionally aggressive, and then you had Carl Oliver, who was a part of the initial team, and Tim Munnings and Troy McIntosh. I think we just knew that once we got it together, that we were definitely going to be a force to reckon with, because it's not like we were trailing the race. There were parts of the race that if we weren't in the lead, we were definitely in the top pack. So I think 99 was a defining year for us at the Pan Am Games, because I think we understood that, wow, we really, if everybody comes in 100% great shape, we really can be very competitive against the world teams.
Jump to 2000 in Sydney. 2000 in Sydney. You led off the team, and you had your leadoff was 44-65, I think. Very good. So tell us about that race.
I think when I initially ran in the first round of the 400, I had never been in a stadium that large, and I walked out for my first round of the 400, and I just saw dots. I didn't see people, so it was just like, oh wow, this is crazy. It's like I can't see anyone. I'm just seeing like small figures, and I really understood the magnitude of the presence of being at the Olympic Games. So many people came from all over the world to watch that. So when I started the race, it was just like, you can't look crazy in the front of all these people, and then it's on TV, and then everybody is watching, because at that point my mom had seen me on TV. They were talking about it when I called home. So it's just like, oh wow, it's like mom being at the track meet. You always run well when mom's at the track meet. And basically, I just knew that I had to step it up on the next level. We were in lane 1, so I know that I definitely had to, lane 1 seems like a defeated lane. So you feel like you are so far behind, even from the beginning of the race. So I knew that I had to execute in a way to put myself in control of the race. I had no focus on time. I just knew that I wanted to catch the person that was in front of me, and that's what I did. I think it put the team in a very good contention, and for the most part, we were in I think second place for the majority of the race. So I was really pleased with that effort, and I think it gave our team a huge boost of confidence going into the final.
So the next year, 2001, you were in Madrid, and you set a new national record. And the record that you set, as I could remember it, would have been beating Troy McIntosh, who had broken Mike Sands' record that was there for over 21 years or so. So Troy made a significant part of the team, but you had set a national record in Madrid on the way to Edmonton. Tell us about that experience, and specifically about Edmonton. First of all, your race, not the relay.
Okay, so in Madrid, my manager, in college, I never knew who I was going to run. I didn't care. I never looked at the start list. I just knew that I needed to focus on what I needed to do. So I never went into the race with the awareness of what anybody else was running that year or anything. But in Madrid, my manager gave me the start list, and I saw that there were quite a few guys who had ran 44 low or 44 mid. And I was like, oh, wow, this is not going to be a walk in the park. This is definitely I'm going to have to run. The weather was just amazing. There was not a lot of wind. I know that meet in particular is usually very windy. But on this particular day, it was very calm. And I just remember like coming to 300 meters, and it felt like I was leading the race, but it felt like I was behind. And I saw the guy from Kenya in my peripheral vision. And I was like, wow, it looks like he's going to come and get me. So it's more so adrenaline and the feeling of, okay, well, I have to put 110% effort forward. Otherwise, I'm going to lose this race. And that caused me to just take the race to the next level. When I looked at the clock, I was upset first. I was like, oh, my God, how are they going to break the clock on my race? Yeah. I was like, it's 44:45. I know I didn't run that. But then they call the timer. They say, and the winner is Avard Moncur from the Bahamas in the time of 44:45. It was so unreal. It was a very surreal feeling because I'd never even envisioned myself running as fast as that, and it being a national record. I felt proud. I felt like all of the sacrifices that I'd made, all the sacrifices that people had made for me, had finally culminated into a successful race. And it just meant a lot for my country. Mike Sand's record lasted for a very long time, 45:20, and that really was the standard that I knew for a long time. And then Troy came and broke it, but Troy didn't. He it wasn't until around 2000 or something, or 99, when he broke it. So we came
that
up
was
with
he did that in '96 in Mexico City.
Okay, yeah.
Mexico City.
And prior to that, so I understood that, wow, this was a very significant part of our history. And I just
Avard, let me just stick a point. You're missing something most significant. That was the semifinals, You don't just jump into the finals. It was the semifinals. And you led off the semifinals. And I'm not sure if you led off. What did you, which one did you run in the semifinals? The first leg, the second leg?
So once we got to Edmonton, it was I think I finished running the 400 and I'd won, so I was really excited about that. And
excuse me. I'm talking about the semifinals, not the finals.
Oh, so in Madrid there was no semifinals; it was a straight final. So because most of the
so just let me say this: I see a 43-7 as the semifinals in Edmonton. By you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So basically,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot about that. Yeah, like we ran the semifinals of the 4x4, and Chris was having a small irritation, so we decided that we were going to go ahead and save him for the finals. So I ended up running the second leg for the 4x4. And we were somewhat behind, but I felt like I was in great shape, and I felt like we were really a great competitive team. So yeah, I was able to split a really solid leg, and then I think Tim was in great shape, and we saw that, wow, we may not need to use our big dogs on the first leg or on the anchor. We could probably put someone like a Tim Munnings on there because he's in great shape. So we made a decision to kind of load everything in the beginning, putting myself and Chris earlier in the race, and then hoping that someone like Tim would be able to bring it home. So, I mean, and obviously I think he ran out of his own body on that day. He was able to split a significant leg and also bring us to a silver medal. So yeah, we did really well.
Which became a gold medal years afterwards.
Yes.
But we don't need to talk too much about that. So we go to Grenada, and our 4x4 won the gold medal in Grenada. Okay.
Yeah.
So what about? Go ahead.
Grenada was such a great because that was another like CAC championships, and I think it wasn't. I think we just had this confidence like never before, and I think we were just trying to figure out how we were going to get to the point where we can now get the Olympic gold medal. We are now, as a team, coming from lagging and being what they call the runners-up to basically leading the region in various competitions like the CAC and the Pan Am Games and those things. The Bahamas started to be one of the top teams. So we saw something that started as just an idea turned into, okay, now the Bahamas is a force to reckon with, It was great to see that when we won that, because I think that was really one of the first times, or one of the first few times that we won with confidence. If we won in the past, it was almost like, oh, that just kind of happened. But this time, I think we went in knowing and believing that we were able to win. So
Paris 2003. Paris 2003. Very interesting. Tell us a little bit about
that. Paris was really a great experience. I think We had a pretty solid team. We didn't have our strongest team, but we had some younger people on the team. And I think we didn't actually finish in the top three position, but because of some issues that happened later on, we were able to be moved up to the bronze medal. But I think Paris was definitely one of the times where we started to kind of fall back a little bit and started to have to reevaluate, where we're going to be moving in the future.
So, 2005, Helsinki. Tell us about your run in Helsinki.
That was such a great experience for me. I went specifically to run the 4x4. And I think we had Chris Brown, who was running extremely well. I think he was running right around 44 mids or whatever. But for whatever reason, Helsinki was raining every single day. So
I felt bad for them. Raining and cold, not just raining.
Cold, yeah. But on the day of the 4x4, for whatever reason, it held up a little bit. And, we had Nathaniel McKinney, who was on that team. He was one of the younger guys coming up. And then, the majority of the guys on the team were seasoned. So it worked out perfectly. We were able to run solid legs on each round. And we were able to come up with the silver medal. I think that was such a proud moment for us because, it was, I think Chris just got fourth in the 400. But when you go to major,
guess who beat him out of the medal? Your man from Canada.
Oh yes, Shane Davey. Yes. So, well, is it? I think it's Shane. Oh, there was another Canadian guy. I can't remember what his name was. Yeah. So, Chris had a lot of close calls. But nonetheless, the 400 meters definitely continued to get very, very fast. And you definitely needed to, the Bahamas needed to step its game up if they were going to be competitive in that run. But we for every major championship we had somebody in the finals or that would medal at some point. So
go to 2007 at the World Championships.
2007 was really, really significant because for the first time the Bahamas had two competitors in the 400 meter final. Myself and Chris Brown. So it was like even for that, I think we were just extremely proud because I don't think that had ever happened where we would be able to do double representation in a particular event. I think we did it in the women's 100 meters where we had like three, yes. But it never happened in the 400. So that's when I understood that, the Bahamas really, we were really having a lot to contribute in terms of 400 meters in the world stage, not just locally, but we were definitely very significant on the world stage as well.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, and then we were able to come up with a silver medal there, and I think we were able to also break the national record. Was this the year we broke the national record in the 4x4?
I think so. So.
We were able to break the national record, and I think I heard Chris for the first time saying, "Oh, we can get the gold." And for me, I was just like, you know what? If you believe it, then that's it. But he said it out of his own mouth that he believed that we could win. Of course, I had like challenges with injuries and stuff like that, but I think quarter milers in the Bahamas, like the level went up so high. Now we had a lot of younger guys coming up that were running really, really strong or whatever, which eventually led to, Stephen Gardner. That's a phenomenon that came out of nowhere. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming, but it definitely is really great for our country.
So we talk about 2008. Were you there, 2008?
Yes, I ran the first round of the 2008 4x4. I had some injury challenges. But nonetheless, I was able to contribute to a leg. But watching it from the stand was definitely a different experience for me because I'd always been in the actual fight. But nonetheless, it was just like those guys went out there and they competed so well, and we were able to come through with the Olympic silver medal. Of course, I was a part of the team, so I got a medal by default. Yeah, but I mean, that team effort is definitely something that really continued to put the Bahamas on the map as a whole. And whenever I hear people talk about the 4x4, it's almost like the Bahamas always has to be mentioned in that. So I mean, obviously, we had definitely paved the way for creating a space for Bahamian to be noticed and recognized in that particular event.
So tell me the rest of your competitions.
So basically, I think things started injuries just became very significant for me. But just competing around the European circuit, and the best part was my Edmonton 400-meter championship. It's just one of those things that I think once I was done, it was almost like in disbelief, because previously I'd only seen Michael Johnson dominate this event for so many years and with very strong and significant times. So for me, it was like, wow, you did it. But I remember praying for that. I remember asking God to give me the opportunity to stand to the top of the rostrum and to be able to be a champion. I got it nipped out previously in the Olympic semifinals in 2000. So the next year I knew that I definitely wanted to, if not be a winner, definitely be a medal contender. So to come out on the top, for me, that was the highlight of my career. But beyond that, I just felt like, it allowed Bahamian young men to see that, it doesn't matter where you came from, the opportunity is available to you. You just have to put the work in. I've been running against Chris since I was 13 years old. I think Chris came on the scene a little later when he was in high school, but I had been racing him from my early days in track and field from when we would go down to Eleuthera. And also Chris' birthday and I is based, I didn't really know this, but it's literally a week apart, where he's older than me for about one week or something like that. But he lives in Georgia as well. And as a matter of fact, he was just over at my house. So we went through so much together, from making our first Olympic team in Sydney together to being a part of almost every Olympic 4x4 team. And also, I guess he was, quote unquote, my rival for many years. But I think we understood something different, that we were bringing something special to our country. And we both wanted to make sure that the Bahamas was represented on some level. So even when I was no longer on top, I felt satisfied that Chris was on top, because you had representation there that was very significant. Anytime you have the Bahamas colors in a final, I think you have the opportunity to show and highlight what our country has to offer, and it makes it available for young people to understand that this is possible for you. You have to see yourselves first in these scenarios before you can understand that it's possible. We didn't have a lot of that, but I think our presence in those various finals over the years definitely created that for younger people coming up. I would hope so, whatever. But I would say Chris Brown. I mean, I have other friends that I've made throughout the year, but he's probably the one that I've known the longest, because we were racing each other since we were probably about 13 years old.